A young boy from Virginia, raised in a modest home, never finished high school, but his destiny was far greater than anyone could have imagined. Roy Clark wasn't just a country musician. He was a showman, a trailblazer, and a master of his craft. With a guitar in his hands and a smile on his face, he brought joy to millions, dazzling audiences with his speed, precision, and unmistakable charm. From honky-tonk bars to sold-out arenas, from television screens to the Grand Ole Opry, his career was nothing short of legendary. But behind the laughter and the roaring applause was a man carrying the weight of relentless pressure, personal battles, and a fate no one saw coming. How did a life so full of music, laughter, and triumph come to such a heartbreaking end? Join us as we uncover the untold story of Roy Clark, his rise to greatness, his struggles behind the spotlight, and the tragic final chapter that shook the world of country music. Long before the bright lights of television and sold-out stages, Roy Clark's story began in the quiet countryside of Meherrin, Virginia. Born in 1933, he was one of 5 children in a hard-working family, raised with the values of perseverance and humility. But in the Clark household, there was something else that filled the air: music. His father, a talented musician himself, played the banjo and guitar with the skill of a seasoned performer, while his mother's hands danced across the piano keys, filling their home with melody and rhythm. As a child, Roy was surrounded by the sounds of old country tunes, gospel hymns, and the lively picking of bluegrass. But times were tough. The Great Depression forced the Clark family to move between Virginia, New York, and Washington, D.C., chasing work and stability. Through all the uncertainty, music remained a constant. His father, despite long days of labor, always made time to play, and young Roy watched with fascination, captivated by the way a simple string could bring a song to life. His first instrument wasn't anything you'd find in a store. It was a 4-string cigar box with a makeshift neck, a crude but powerful gateway into the world of music. With no formal lessons, Roy relied on his ears, his hands, and an unshakable determination to learn. By the time he was 14, his fingers danced effortlessly across the guitar strings. But he didn't stop there. The banjo, the mandolin, each instrument he touched became an extension of himself. He wasn't just playing music, he was absorbing it, shaping it, and making it his own. While other kids his age were focused on school and sports, Roy was studying something entirely different: the great musicians of his time. He listened endlessly to the radio, soaking in the styles of jazz, swing, and country legends. One name stood out above the rest: George Barnes. A master of the electric guitar, Barnes's swing-style picking and rich, soulful tone left an impression on young Roy that would shape his own sound in the years to come. But Roy wasn't content to just listen. He wanted to play. He wanted to feel the music under his fingers, to create something that was uniquely his. And so, he practiced relentlessly, often for hours at a time, perfecting his technique, pushing the limits of what he could do. In a world that often told him what he couldn't be, music became the one thing that set him free. His gift didn't go unnoticed. Even in his early teens, he was already impressing older musicians, earning a reputation as a prodigy with an uncanny ability to pick up melodies in an instant. The small-town boy from Virginia was on the verge of something big. But what lay ahead was a path filled with triumph, struggle, and the kind of destiny that few could have predicted. By the time Roy Clark was 15, he wasn't just another kid with a guitar, he was a force to be reckoned with. While most teenagers were still figuring out their path, Roy was already dominating the music scene. His skill on the banjo was undeniable, earning him back-to-back victories in the National Banjo Championships at just 15 and 16 years old. But for Roy, these weren't just trophies. They were proof that he was meant for something greater. With his name beginning to spread, Roy found himself stepping onto a much bigger stage, the road. He joined local bands, playing at small-town fairs, honky-tonks, and any venue that would have him. Life on tour was unpredictable, filled with long nights, low pay, and the relentless grind of chasing a dream. But Roy wasn't in it for the money. He was in it for the music. Washington, D.C. became his proving ground. At a time when country music was still carving out its place in mainstream entertainment, the city had a thriving music scene, and Roy was right in the middle of it. He played wherever he could, sharpening his craft, drawing crowds with his lightning-fast picking and infectious energy. He wasn't just playing music, he was putting on a show. His mix of raw talent and playful charm set him apart, making him a favorite among local musicians and audiences alike. Then, in 1954, came the opportunity that would change everything. A rising country singer named Jimmy Dean saw something special in Roy and invited him to join his band, the Texas Wildcats. It was a turning point. Dean, known for his discipline and sharp ear for talent, gave Roy a crash course in professional musicianship. Touring with the Texas Wildcats meant bigger venues, larger crowds, and an entirely new level of exposure. But it wasn't just about live performances. Television was becoming the next big frontier. In the mid-1950s, Jimmy Dean was hosting Town and Country Time, a local radio and TV show in Washington, D.C., and Roy quickly became a regular. For the first time, his music was reaching beyond the walls of smoky clubs and into people's living rooms. He wasn't just a local musician anymore, he was becoming a known name. Then, in 1956, came his first taste of national recognition. Roy entered Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, a widely watched talent competition that had the power to make or break careers. It was his first time performing on a major television network, and though he didn't win the top prize, it hardly mattered. Millions had seen what he could do, and the industry was taking notice. Roy Clark had officially arrived. The kid from Virginia, who started with nothing but a cigar box guitar, was now standing on the edge of stardom. But the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Fame was within reach, but it would take resilience, adaptability, and a relentless drive to turn his talent into a lasting legacy. The early 1960s marked a turning point in Roy Clark's career. He had spent years paying his dues, honing his craft, and playing wherever he could. But then came the moment that changed everything. A call from Wanda Jackson, the queen of rockabilly herself. She needed a guitarist for her band, the Party Timers, and she wanted Roy. This wasn't just another gig, this was a direct ticket into the heart of the music industry. Touring with Wanda exposed Roy to a national audience. He wasn't just backing up a star, he was proving that he was one. His skill, versatility, and stage presence caught the attention of Capitol Records, one of the biggest labels in the business. In 1962, they gave him his shot, releasing his first solo album, The Lightning Fingers of Roy Clark. It wasn't just another record, it was a showcase of his jaw-dropping guitar technique, a sound that blended country, jazz, and rock and roll into something completely unique. The album put Roy on the map as more than just a talented musician. It proved he was an artist in his own right. With his reputation growing, it wasn't long before Las Vegas came calling. Within 2 years, he went from playing small-town shows to headlining in one of the biggest entertainment capitals in the world. In the 1960s, Vegas was a proving ground for musicians, comedians, and performers of all kinds. If you could make it there, you could make it anywhere. And Roy didn't just make it, he thrived. His high-energy performances, lightning-fast fingers, and natural charisma made him a standout act. He wasn't just a musician anymore, he was a full-blown entertainer. But for all his success on stage, it was television that would make Roy Clark a legend. In 1969, he got the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to co-host a brand-new variety show called Hee Haw. Alongside fellow country star Buck Owens, Roy helped bring music, comedy, and down-home humor to millions of homes across America. What started as a simple country music program quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Hee Haw wasn't just another show, it was an institution. It ran for an incredible 28 years, making Roy a household name and solidifying his place as one of country music's most recognizable faces. With his infectious laugh, comedic timing, and undeniable musical talent, he brought a unique energy to the show. Whether he was delivering a punchline, picking out a fiery solo, or just flashing that trademark grin, Roy had a way of making people feel like they were part of the fun. But Hee Haw wasn't just about laughs, it was a launch pad. The exposure from the show catapulted Roy to a level of fame that few country artists had ever seen. By the 1970s, he was at the very top of the industry, becoming the highest-paid country musician in America. He was selling out venues across the country, landing endorsement deals, and breaking records with his music. The small-town boy from Virginia had become a superstar. Roy Clark had officially conquered country music. But even as his career reached new heights, the pressures of fame, the grind of constant touring, and the weight of expectation loomed in the background. His name was bigger than ever, but the road ahead would prove to be more challenging than he ever imagined. Roy Clark wasn't just a musician, he was a visionary. His impact on country music went far beyond the stage, as he built a legacy that spanned business, television, and philanthropy. While many artists focused solely on their craft, Roy had a bigger picture in mind. He wasn't just playing music, he was shaping the future of entertainment. In the 1980s, Roy took a bold step that would change the face of country music tourism. He became the first major artist to open a permanent theater in Branson, Missouri, an unassuming town that would soon become a hub for live music. The Roy Clark Celebrity Theater set the stage for Branson's transformation into the entertainment capital of the Midwest, inspiring countless artists to follow in his footsteps. What started as a simple venue soon became a must-visit destination for country music fans from all over the country. But Roy wasn't just about selling tickets, he was about giving back. Throughout his career, he remained deeply committed to philanthropy, using his fame to support countless charitable causes. He hosted benefit concerts, funded scholarships for young musicians, and worked tirelessly to uplift communities through music. Whether it was donating instruments to schools or mentoring up-and-coming artists, Roy believed that music had the power to change lives, just as it had changed his. And while his business ventures and generosity were impressive, Roy never lost sight of his true passion: music. He continued to collaborate with legendary musicians, including his longtime friend Buck Trent, creating performances that blended technical mastery with pure entertainment. Whether it was on stage or in the studio, Roy's love for music never faded. But there was another passion that defined Roy Clark: his love for flying. An avid pilot, he didn't just collect airplanes, he lived for the thrill of taking to the skies. From small personal planes to high-powered jets, Roy found freedom in the cockpit, much like he did with a guitar in his hands. His love for aviation was so deep that he even used it to support charitable causes, raffling off one of his planes to benefit Wings of Hope, a humanitarian organization that provided medical aid around the world. Beyond his contributions to music and aviation, Roy became a familiar face on television, appearing on some of the biggest shows of his time. Whether it was playing dual roles on the Beverly Hillbillies, showing off his comedic timing on The Odd Couple, or wowing audiences with a performance on The Tonight Show, Roy had a way of captivating viewers no matter where he was. His charm, humor, and larger-than-life personality made him a natural in front of the camera, further cementing his place as a beloved entertainer. And the accolades? They were endless. Twice named CMA Entertainer of the Year, Roy was recognized as one of country music's greatest performers. He won a Grammy for Alabama Jubilee, proving that his instrumental talent was just as impressive as his showmanship. And in 1987, he achieved one of the highest honors in country music. He was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, an institution that had been a part of his dreams since childhood. Roy Clark was more than a musician. He was a pioneer, a mentor, a philanthropist, and an entertainer whose influence reached far beyond the world of country music. He built something that would last, a legacy that would continue to inspire generations of artists and fans alike. But even as he achieved all these milestones, time was catching up, and life in the spotlight would soon give way to an unexpected and heartbreaking turn. For all his fame, fortune, and success, Roy Clark's greatest love wasn't found under the stage lights. It was at home, with his family. Through decades of relentless touring, television appearances, and career-defining moments, he remained a devoted husband and father, finding solace and purpose in the people who knew him best. In 1957, Roy married the love of his life, Barbara Joyce Ruppard. Their bond was unshakable, built on love, trust, and an understanding that the life of an entertainer came with its challenges. While many marriages in the entertainment industry crumbled under the weight of fame, Roy and Barbara defied the odds, standing side by side for over 60 years. Together, they raised 5 children, ensuring that no matter how demanding his career became, family always came first. Despite the endless cycle of performances, television commitments, and recording sessions, Roy never let his career overshadow his role as a father. He made sure his children grew up in a home filled with laughter, love, and, of course, music. He was the same Roy Clark at home as he was on stage, full of life, always smiling, always making those around him feel special. Whether it was a phone call from the road or time spent together between tours, he remained present, ensuring that his family never felt like second place to his career. But time has a way of catching up with even the strongest of men. As the years passed, Roy's body began to feel the toll of a life spent on the road. His back, worn down by decades of traveling and performing, became a constant source of pain. Surgeries, treatments, and therapy helped, but they were never enough to fully ease his discomfort. Still, Roy refused to let physical pain slow him down. He had built his life around performing, and as long as he could still pick up a guitar, he wasn't going to let anything stop him. Even after major medical procedures, Roy did what few others would dare. He got right back on stage. Following gallbladder surgery, most people would have taken weeks, even months, to recover. But Roy, he returned to perform a full 2-hour show, proving that his love for music was stronger than any physical setback. It was never about the money, the fame, or the applause. It was about the music, the connection with his audience, the joy of doing what he loved most. His final years saw him slowing down, but never stopping. He continued to make public appearances, his presence still commanding the same respect and admiration it had for decades. His hands, though not as fast as they once were, still played with the same heart and soul. His voice, though softened with age, still carried the warmth that fans had come to love. Roy Clark was more than just a legend. He was a man who gave everything he had to the people who mattered most. Whether it was his family, his fans, or the musicians he mentored, he left a mark that could never be erased. But as his final curtain call approached, the world was unprepared for the heartbreaking farewell that was just around the corner. On November 15, 2018, the world lost not just a musician, but an icon. Roy Clark, the man who had brought joy to millions with his music, humor, and warmth, passed away at the age of 85. His death, caused by complications from pneumonia, sent shockwaves through the country music community. Those closest to him had believed he would recover. After all, Roy had always been a fighter. But this time, fate had other plans. For decades, Roy had been a pillar of country music, a source of endless energy and laughter. His passing marked the end of an era, leaving a void that no one could fill. Fans, fellow musicians, and loved ones struggled to come to terms with the loss of a man who had seemed larger than life. He had been on their television screens, in their concert halls, and in their hearts for generations. Now, the stage was empty, and the music had faded. His Hee Haw co-stars, many of whom had spent years alongside him, were devastated. Victoria Hallman, who had worked closely with Roy on the show, couldn't believe he was gone. She spoke of his kindness, his generosity, and the way he could light up a room with just a smile. She had always admired his resilience, his ability to push through pain, and his unwavering dedication to his craft. To her, Roy Clark wasn't just a legendary entertainer, he was family. Ruth Elkins, another close friend and colleague, echoed those sentiments. She had watched Roy battle through health issues before, always bouncing back, always returning to the stage as if nothing could stop him. His love for performing never wavered, even as his body began to slow down. The idea that he was gone felt surreal, almost impossible to comprehend. Fans poured out their grief in an overwhelming wave of tributes. Messages flooded social media, with countless people sharing stories of how Roy's music had touched their lives. Some remembered watching him on Hee Haw with their parents, laughing together as he cracked jokes and played his heart out. Others recalled the first time they saw him perform live, mesmerized by the speed of his fingers and the effortless way he commanded the stage. He wasn't just a musician, he was a memory, a piece of people's lives that could never be replaced. In Nashville, at the Grand Ole Opry, the institution that had welcomed Roy into its hallowed halls, a moment of silence was held in his honor. It was a fitting tribute for a man who had given so much to the world of country music. The echoes of his guitar, his laughter, and his spirit would live on in the stories, the songs, and the countless lives he had touched. Roy Clark had spent his entire life bringing happiness to others. He had played through pain, performed through exhaustion, and lived every moment with passion. And even in death, his legacy remained unshaken. His music, his humor, and his heart would never be forgotten. Though the man was gone, his songs would play on. His laughter would still be heard in the reruns of Hee Haw. His influence would still be felt in every musician who picked up a guitar and dreamed of following in his footsteps. Roy Clark didn't just leave behind a career, he left behind a legend. And legends never truly die. Even after his passing, Roy Clark's influence continues to resonate through country music, television, and beyond. He wasn't just an artist, he was a force of nature, a trailblazer whose impact still echoes in the industry today. His signature guitar work, his magnetic stage presence, and his ability to blend humor with heartfelt storytelling set a standard that few could ever hope to reach. Roy's contributions stretched far beyond music. He brought country culture into mainstream entertainment, making millions laugh while introducing them to the raw energy of country and bluegrass. He blurred the lines between genres, incorporating elements of jazz, blues, and rock, proving that great music has no boundaries. His talent was more than just technical skill. It was the ability to connect with people, to make them feel something real. His legacy was cemented in 2009 when he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, an honor that recognized his lifetime of achievements. But long before that, his name had already been etched into the history of the genre. In Virginia, where his journey first began, and in Oklahoma, the place he called home for much of his life, he was celebrated as more than just a musician. He was a cultural icon. His contributions to the arts earned him recognition at the highest levels, proving that his work had made an impact far beyond the stage. But perhaps Roy's greatest achievement wasn't an award, a television show, or even a song. It was the way he made people feel. He was a man who could bring a smile to your face with a simple joke, who could move you with a single note from his guitar, who could turn a simple country melody into something unforgettable. He didn't just play music, he lived it. And in doing so, he gave the world something that would last forever. As we look back on his extraordinary career, one thing is certain. Roy Clark's journey was one of perseverance, adaptability, and an undying love for music. He was a man who never stopped evolving, never stopped pushing the boundaries, and never lost sight of what truly mattered. He will always be remembered as one of the greatest entertainers of all time. His laughter, his music, and his spirit live on in the countless performances, recordings, and memories he left behind. And so, as the final notes fade and the lights dim, we remember Roy Clark not just as a country legend, but as a man who gave everything he had to the world. His story isn't just one of success. It's one of passion, resilience, and a love for music that will never die. Roy Clark may be gone, but his music will play on forever. If you enjoyed this look into the life and legacy of Roy Clark, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about other legends out there.